Hello students, I am back. So students, we have been deriving an expression for the acceleration of a particle performing UCM, uniform circular motion, and this acceleration is called as radial acceleration. Okay. In the last module, we derived an expression for the radius vector. Also, we saw how UCM is an accelerated motion. So now let us continue with the derivation. Alright, it's an important module. Please pay attention. Okay. Now students, in the last module, alright, you remember this diagram? Yes, this diagram is very important. And then we derived an expression for our radius vector. Yes. What is the expression for radius vector? Very good. Too loud. The expression for radius vector R is nothing but I cap R cos omega t plus J cap R sin omega t. We saw this in the last module. Okay. Now, students, here the radius vector is the position vector, and the position of the particle is changing, and the radius vector is changing its direction. So then we can say the velocity of the particle is nothing but dr by dt. Yes or no? The rate of change of displacement is your velocity, and here r is your position vector or the radius vector. So v is equal to dr by dt. Now we know what is r. Can I put the value of r? What I will get? Yes, I will get v is equal to d by dt of I cap r cos omega t plus j cap r sin omega t. Okay. Now next step, students, see that r, magnitude of the radius vector is not changing. Alright, magnitude of the radius vector is not changing. R is constant, so R can be pulled out. So if you pull out R, what you will get? Good. You will get V is equal to R into d by dt of I cap cos omega t plus j cap sin omega t. Is that clear? Now students, next step. What I am going to do is I will carry this forward. I can write this expression as V is equal to R into I cap d by dt of cos omega t plus j cap d by dt of sin omega t. Is that clear? Fine. Now you have to differentiate. So what is d by dt of cos omega t? Minus sin omega t. That's all. No. Wrong. Completely wrong. d by dt of cos omega t. How to differentiate this? Yes. Function in a function cos omega t. Function in a function. Chain rule. Yes or no? 11th standard. Basic mathematical tool physics. You've studied this chain rule. So d by dt of cos omega t. How will you differentiate this? First, you differentiate cos omega t with respect to dt. So d by dt of cos omega t is nothing but minus sin omega t into d by dt of omega t. So function in a function. So d by dt of cos omega t is first cos omega t. Differentiation of cos omega t is minus sin omega t into d by dt of omega t. You have to differentiate omega t also. Now you remember chain rule, function in a function. Fine. So I will write it over there. Now next, we need to differentiate sin omega t. So d by dt of sin omega t. What will be d by dt of sin omega t? Yes, very good students. Sin omega t, it's a function in a function, chain rule. So d by dt of sin omega t. First you differentiate sin omega t. Sin omega t is cos omega t into d by dt of omega t. So I'll write it over here. Is that clear? Now students, see here. d by dt of omega t. What is d by dt of omega t? Yes, d by dt of omega t is omega. So instead of d by dt of omega t, I can write omega. What I will get? I will get V is equal to R into I cap minus omega sin omega t plus j cap omega cos omega. What did I do? Instead of this d by dt of omega t, I have written omega. Differentiation of omega t is omega with respect to t. So then I'll get this. Is that clear? Now students, after this it's very simple. I can open up the bracket. If I open up the bracket, I will get V is equal to minus I cap R omega sin omega t plus j cap R omega cos omega t. So this is the velocity of a particle performing uniform circular motion. Is that clear? Please be careful while differentiating. We have used the chain rule, function in a function. Okay? So students, we have derived an expression for velocity of a particle performing UCM. What we need to derive? Yes, we need to derive an acceleration of the particle performing UCM. So it is a bit lengthy. So I will just stop with this. I'm going to again disappear. I'll be back. I'll catch you up in the next one.